Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic podcast duo for you today. I've got Matt Tack and Dr. Alfred from Full Fueled, and they're going to talk to us all about. They're the host of the growing Full Fueled podcast, and it's powered by Nootricious brand that provides fuel for the forever athlete. They've got six pillars. We'll talk about the fuel, movement, sleep, mind, work, and spirit. And I'm happy to welcome on them onto the show and provide maximum value. So, hey guys, welcome.
Hey, thanks so much for having us. We
Brother.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch, and you guys are from the Tampa area. So, talk about your brand, how you got started, what you do, and I'm happy to jump into the show.
Yeah, man. So Full Fueled is really kind of the brand that then has like spawned off other projects. But it started with I'm a chiropractor, functional doctor by background. So I have a clinic here located in Tampa. And then me and Matt are actually we're old friends who then reconnected. And so he was pitching me on his idea of wanting to start a podcast. He's been a trainer for a long time, and he had the Nootricious brand of the functional food brand. And we kind of just started throwing the idea around. And we were like, let's do it, man. Let's just give people some value on how to stay healthy forever, right? That's like the goal and kind of the theme behind it.
Yeah.
I'd say our audience is a little bit more like tends to be more men, guys in their 30s, 40s who are trying to stay active and fit. They got some kids, they got a busy life. So that's kind of the thesis behind the brand here, man, is how do we fuel the athlete for longevity for as long as possible?
Yeah, I love that. So, the journey to Full Fueled and kind of share more about your challenges in your 20s and how these experience shaped the development of this lifestyle and brand. What specific moments led you to focus on these six pillars?
Yeah, I think we thought long and hard about those six pillars. So those are just something obviously that kind of creates the parameters at which we operate every day in life. But one of the major things for me, kind of in my mid 20s, was I literally went through this season of I felt like I was giving up on the past was, the has been Matt, as a standout athlete. I was playing basketball, and then I kind of like chose to give that up a little bit. And I saw some of my friends who excelled, and one of my buddies who made it to the NFL. And I'm like, man, like, is this it? Are the best days behind me? And I kind of went through this lull in this season of real, just thinking that, yeah, I'm going to have to give up on that. And then, there was a point in my late 20s where just I had this like real mindset shift, started digging in, became an entrepreneur in my late 20s. And then I started having kids at about 29, 30. And it really, that spawned this like creativity in my brain. I should say that, hey, I got to be an example. I got to set a standard that my kids are going to look up to me. And I'm not trying to live through my kids, which I feel like in today's society, a lot of people try to live through their kids, right? Hey, well, my best days are behind me, so I'm going to live through them. And I'm saying, I think we're seeing a lot of that in interclassic athletics, where just like these dads and moms are just, oh, they're my kid's going to make it pro, and it's like, well, why don't you take care of yourself first? And so then it became this concept of Nootricious, of really bonding with this idea of the forever athlete. Why do we give that up when we have kids? Like, why do we try to live through our kids? Why don't we try to be a better model? And so with those pillars in mind, we treat our work, we treat our spirit, we treat everything as if it's an athletic environment, right? And that's the way we hold our bodies as well. And so really that forever athlete concept, is spawned off of our pillars and just how we operate every day. And so that's really the meaning. It came through the pain point of like, hey, I'm not going to try to live through my kids. I went through a season of depression and thinking that my best days were behind me, but I can really set a higher standard for myself. So that's ultimately how that came about.
Yeah, I don't know. Dr. Alfred, do you have anything to add or?
Yeah, I mean, my story is a little similar, a little different. Like I have two young kids as well. And so during that time when they were young and I was just getting into my career as a chiropractor, I went through a burnout phase. Like I was doing everything. And so my health took a dive because I was putting so much effort and energy into my career, working 60-hour weeks, and then going home, dealing with two kids that weren't sleeping. I have identical twins. So there was just a whole thing. So one, and then in my I want to say I was about 30 at the time. I developed a thyroid condition because my adrenal system fatigued, and my body was like, you know what, we can't run at this high capacity anymore. We're hitting the pause button. And I just got crazy fatigue, just burnout, just all the signs of that. So I went through this functional health kind of protocol, healed myself, healed my gut. Honestly, that was kind of a lot of the base of it, the root cause, and got myself healthy. And it's been, ever since then, it's just like preventative, right? How do we stay ahead of the game versus medicine in this country is highly reactive. Let's wait till we're sick to do something. Let's wait till we're injured to do something. We take the opposite approach. Like, let's stay vibrant, healthy, and in this state of just like vital health, so that when something happens, you fall, you're not going to get injured, right? You're going to be able to respond and adapt.
Yeah, I love that. We'll talk about nutritional philosophy and advice. And one thing is big is longevity, and a lot of people, because people are living longer. And so in the context of human performance, what does longevity mean, and how do you measure, define success in longevity focused endeavors, both personally and in your community and your clients?
Yeah, he can speak to the client side because he works directly with the clients. I think, for us, we go by the kind of the Peter Attia model of health span is always better than lifespan. And so how well are we living in the time period that we are given? And so what does health span look like? We focus on two things, protecting our brain and then also protecting our body. And so fuel your brain, fuel your body is our motto. But then specifically, we believe in muscle, putting on muscle is one key to longevity. So there's a big component of exercise there. And then what are we fueling our brain with to ultimately maximize our benefit? So longevity specifically for us is really health span is greater than lifespan. But I'll let you add into that a little bit more, Alfie.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's all of that I would agree with. And then adding on like running biomarkers and blood work is just the one way, because what gets measured gets managed, right? If we have no idea what's going on the inside, then how can we plan for success, right? You're obviously, this is a business podcast and entrepreneurial, like you measure your KPIs, you measure your collections, you measure everything, right? So we have to do the same thing with our bodies, right? It's there is very much a subjective aspect to like, I feel good, I don't feel good, but the objective aspect, like, hey, my testosterone is this number, how do I increase it? Or my inflammation is this number, how do I decrease it? And so I think that's where I come into the picture with a lot of our clients and our coaching clients as well, is making sure we have a base, like a starting point, so that we know where we're trying to go.
There was a guy on our podcast as well that gave this term, and I absolutely love it. He said the best ability is availability. And that's it really in a nutshell. I think what really the culmination of, hey, how are we staying available? A lot of times in the world we live in, we try to get very analytical and try to, what can we do here, there? But how do we bring it back to the fundamentals and be available? And so the best ability is availability. I love that, how Jake said that in one of our last podcasts.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you just said, and also what gets measured. I think that's so key.
Managed, yeah.
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 So one thing you talked about is gut health, and it was really interesting because I saw this Twitter feed this morning talking about this guy went to Miami Beach and he interviewed these great. He was like 60-year old and he looked like he was in his 40s, and and so elaborate on your nutritional approach and the role it plays in human optimization and some common misconceptions about diet and nutrition and addressing them.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like to what Matt was saying about muscle. Muscle is very much a longevity organ. That if you have adequate skeletal muscle on your body, you're going to live longer. That's just a fact. That's proven, right? And people who tend to have more muscle tend to focus on, prioritizing high protein, avoiding, garbage food, as we call it, processed, highly processed, the food that's meant to taste really good, but really does nothing for you. We did a whole episode on kind of like what do we call it? The epidemic that is food in this country is very much backwards. All the stuff that's marketed to people, it's all in these brightly colored boxes. It's just, the term is hyper palatable. You're meant to be able to eat a bit and not stop. they don't want you to stop. You smash that whole bag of chips and you're still hungry because there's no real like density to that food. So if we're focusing on getting adequate protein, it's a very satiating macro molecule. So macronutrient. So it's going to give you that fuel as well. Right. And so for longevity, I mean, adequate protein, obviously micronutrients are very important. So I supplement, Matt supplements. I know that we do. I don't want to say everyone needs to be on supplements, but it's rare to get everything you need from your diet nowadays. The food is so nutrient depleted that, if you took a piece of broccoli or a piece of spinach from today versus 20 years ago, the nutrient density is almost like 50% less. And it's because the monocropping, and we can go down a whole rabbit hole of this, but yeah, I think that answered your question. Remind me exactly what the question was.
Well, I think we focus on really two things as far as nutrients. I think in terms of like an overall protocol that we put together, and that's really, if you're going to go to the grocery store, go around the outside of the grocery store, but
right.
A high protein. So we always focus on, really solidifying your, what we call your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. So you know how many calories you're taking in, because the reality is you can lose weight on Snicker bars. You just can't eat as many of them, right? So, but
the majority of that weight's going to probably be that like lean muscle, right? So
exactly.
Weight loss and fat loss are two different things as well, and we harp on that all the time.
So I think, from a longevity standpoint, two key things as far as we focus on nutrition and getting into your diet is the proper amount of fiber. In Scandinavian cultures, they have very, very high fiber in their diet. That's something the American diet is lacking. So fiber, and then protein. Protein. I don't think we can preach protein and more through even our optimizers program, our coaching program, and then here at the clinic. It's just protein is such a key tool that becomes less and less deficient as we age. So really focusing on those things, obviously getting your micronutrients in play as well. And then supplementation is just a huge critical thing that we do here, is just getting those microvitamins in you as well. So that's a major component. If we focused on two things, I would say getting the right amount of fiber, at least 60 grams of fiber in, and then getting 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body mass for protein.
Yeah, I love that. And then the other question is, you gave a really great overview, and what are some practical everyday tips you can offer for people looking to optimize their health performance, and give an example of a daily routine that embodies the full fueled philosophy?
Yeah, I think, here I always go back to the easy ones, and then I'll let Dr. Alessi get a little nerdy on it. But, for me, it always goes back to exercise, right? Exercise is everything. It's a key to longevity. If you can maintain a level of exercise, that is the absolute best thing that you possibly can do for yourself. Now, there's a number of ways of like, what does exercise mean? And, we are true believers in resistance training. So we have a protocol that we use that we take people through to build up their muscular structure. And so that's why we focus on protein and building that muscle mass. So if, to optimize, if you're getting into just one thing, you're like, hey, I'm going to keep it basic. I just need to get into one thing. We don't even send our guys, hey, go run 4 miles. No, we want you to go do resistance training. And so we harp on that pretty big, but get nerdy.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is why we came up with the 6 pillars, because if you're dialed in those 6 areas, I don't think you can lose, right? You got your fuel. If your fuel is in check, right? So we're not eating those hyper processed foods. Movement, you're moving your body every single day. I know this one can often get kind of people like overwhelmed when they're starting. They're like, man, I have to do 30 minutes of exercise. Just go walk, right? Start with that. But you have to move your body every single day, because I use the analogy, and being a chiropractor, I'm trained on obviously spinal mechanics and biomechanics and all that. Think of like a bike that you leave in the garage. That chain gets rusty, crusty. You go to ride that bike, it's not going to move, right? You got to break the rust off. That's our bodies. That's why you're stiff in the morning, because you just laid in one position for 7 to 8 hours. You got to get the blood flow and get the juices going, right? But if you keep moving on a daily basis, our body in motion stays in motion. Sleep, right? The next pillar, sleep's got to be dialed in. everyone's chronotype's a little bit different, kind of genetically how we want to, or our bodies want to go with sleep. But 7 to 8 hours is pretty standard for most people. There's obviously those outliers. I think it's like a 2% of the population that can do like 3 hours and be fine, and their body's okay. That's rare, right? Most people, that's not going to be the case. So, go to sleep when the sun goes down, rise when the sun comes up, and tracking is huge. Then obviously we have mindset. If your mind's not in the right place, your body's not gonna perform or heal like it's supposed to. There's crazy studies out there of people with even things like cancer and these insane like diseases where their body is just attacking itself, but then their mindset shifts and they're like, no, I'm gonna beat this. And when they shift into that positive mindset, the cancer goes away and everyone's stunned. And the doctors are all like, oh, it's a miracle. It's like, yes, it is miraculous, but it all starts here in the power of the subconscious mind, right? Yeah. And then work and spirit are the last two. You gotta have your work in balance. Obviously, we're entrepreneurs, we're busy. I have days here where I'm at the office late, but I make sure I balance it with an appropriate schedule as well. I'm timing, I'm tracking, all that stuff. And then spirit, whatever your spirituality is, I believe in God. Matt's a Christian as well, and so just having that balance included, that there is a higher purpose for this, right? We're very much in our coaching program about the why. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing anything right now? My mission on this planet is to serve people who are sick, unhealthy, need education on those things. That's what God's blessed me with. So that's where I come in. But I think if we have that 6-pillar structure foundationally strong, you can't lose, man.
Yeah. I love that. And I know because your time is very valuable, and for the audience, tell us about your community of optimizers, and you've also got services, experiences that you offer at brick and mortar, as well as your online community, and how can people get in contact with you and reach out to you, etc.
Yeah, so a couple different things there. We started up a coaching community called the Optimizers. We love that. We got a crew of guys in there where we host live events that are filled with some really cool stuff: kettlebell training, infrared sauna, cold plunge. So we do the whole thing for recovery purposes as well. So part of our Optimizers program, though, we had Nat built out, and we meet with them on a weekly basis where we just we're their accountability. So we walk with them. We set up kind of the organization, the infrastructure of their nutritional, and then we go into how they're going to be programming their exercise regimen over the course of 90 days. And then we're just going to be educating them along the way with a mindset to drive a bigger purpose and drive value, right? So establishing that why. So that's part of our Optimizers program that's within Full Fueled. And then obviously we have Nootricious as well. We're actually going to be going into a Kickstarter campaign on that here in the next month or so. And so we're super excited to launch that brand and give people just nutritional supplementation to go along the way. So those are two of the things that we're working on. And then, we have a brick and mortar and a clinic that Dr. Alessi can talk a lot more about.
Yeah. So, I'm a chiropractor by trade, basically built this clinic out, started as chiropractic. We've just added value to the office over time. We just upgraded and invested in a soft wave technology. Basically, it's soft tissue healing. So any kind of tendonitis, and sprains, strains, disc issues, nerve issues can be healed with this technology. It's amazing. It's actually like the next revolution of non-invasive healing. And then we built out the Full Fueled Labs, we call it. It's basically like a recovery room. It's got a sauna and a cold plunge, vibration therapy. So for athletes or, really anyone who's looking to get their body recovering better, we utilize that space. And then we're actually in here. This is where our podcast studio is set up right now. So the goal is expansion. We want to, grow and add more clinics in the future as we get the brand rolling and are able to provide more.
Nice. For all the audience out there, let's thank Matt and Dr. Alfred for coming on. And, I love this idea of this, incremental value adds. And for all the audience, be sure to follow their social medias, give them a like, and check out their resources, their products, their services. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks so much,
Chris.
I appreciate it, Chris. Thanks so much.